Before starting a titration, the burette must be primed. To prime the burette, we must rinse the burette 3 times with water and 3 times with solution.
A titration is a common laboratory method of quantitative chemical analysis that is used to determine the unknown concentration of an identified analyte.
Before a titration starts, you must record the initial volume by looking at the meniscus of the solution in the burette. After the titration, record the final volume of the solution in the burette by looking at the meniscus. Before the titration begins, we add phenolphthalein to the solution. Then we start the titration by adding NaOH to the solution. When the solution begins to turn a light pink, as seen in the video, we know that the titration is finished. While performing the titration, we must consistently swirl the reaction vessel to ensure that the NaOH mixes properly with the solution.
The endpoint is when the concentration of the analyte is equal to the concentration of the titrant.
Here we determine the final volume by looking at the meniscus. Here we see Fred Stevens adding phenolphthalein to the solution. We must add 2 drops to the solution. After adding 2 drops of phenolphthalein, we must swirl the solution to ensure that the phenolphthalein mixes correctly. We determine the initial volume here by looking at the meniscus. Here, Fred Stevens is adding NaOH to the solution and consistently stirring it to ensure that the NaOH mixes properly with the solution. As we start reaching the endpoint, we start to see that the solution starts to gain traces of faint pink. This lets us know that we are getting close. As we get closer to the endpoint, we slowly add drops of NaOH to ensure that we do not go over. In this clip, Fred is approaching the endpoint. He starts to slowly add NaOH until he sees a faint pink solution. Here, Fred is adding a few more drops to finish off the titration. We see that the solution has turned a faint pink and has reached its endpoint. The endpoint is reached when the concentration of analyte equals the concentration of the titrant. Here, we read the final volume by looking at the meniscus.
Go.
Stir it, stir it, stir it up, stir it.
We see Ashley Dorner adding phenolphthalein to the solution. Phenolphthalein is the indicator to let us know when we have reached our endpoint. We determine the initial volume by reading the meniscus. Ashley now begins the titration by adding NaOH to the solution. Here we see that the solution starts to turn a faint pink color. We know now that the solution is approaching its endpoint. Ashley is stirring up the solution in order to make sure the phenolphthalein has properly indicated the endpoint. The solution has gone a little over the endpoint because the pink is a little darker. Here we read the final volume by looking at the meniscus.